The humidity of Jovara 3 pressed against the survey team like a living thing, thick and suffocating. Bioluminescent vines pulsed overhead in patterns that made the Vareni crew's compound eyes water. Chief Botanist Zelix adjusted his breathing apparatus for the third time in 10 minutes, while Navigator Quinth checked their position on the holographic display. "Readings are inconsistent this deep," Quinth muttered, his translator struggling with the clicks and whistles of his native tongue. "The electromagnetic interference from the flora is substantial." Behind them, Sergeant Kira Thorne moved with predatory grace that made the herbivorous aliens unconsciously cluster together. Her dark skin glistened with sweat, but her breathing remained steady. Unlike the Vareni, she carried no breathing apparatus, just a combat knife, sidearm, and a kind of alert stillness that made prey animals nervous. Human Thorne called senior researcher Vixel, his antelope-like ears twitching. "Your species' adaptability continues to fascinate our xenobiologists. How do you process this atmosphere so efficiently?" Kira's smile was sharp. "Practice." The team had been pushing deeper into the jungle for 3 days, following energy readings that suggested mineral deposits. The Vareni Union's peaceful exploration protocols demanded thorough documentation of any potentially habitable worlds, but Juvara 3 was testing those limits. Strange calls echoed from the canopy, not quite animal, not quite plant. Their sensors detected movement that vanished when they turned to look. "Perhaps we should establish camp," suggested Medic Bryn, her rabbit-like nose twitching anxiously. "The readings are becoming more erratic." "Agreed," Vixel said. "We'll set up the perimeter drones." Kira's hand shot up, fingers spread. The universal gesture for silence that every species in the galaxy understood. The Vareni froze, there. Evolutionary instincts screaming warnings they couldn't name. She had stopped moving completely. Not just walking breathing seemed to pause. Her head tilted slightly, eyes scanning the seemingly empty jungle around them. The bioluminescent plants continued their rhythmic pulsing, but something felt wrong. A background noise of insects, and distant calls had faded to an unnatural quiet. "Human Thorne?" Zelix whispered. She didn't respond. Instead, she slowly crouched, one hand touching the moss-covered ground. Her nostrils flared slightly, and her eyes tracked something the others couldn't see. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible, even through their comm systems. "We're not alone." The Vareni's hearts hammered against their rib cages with inherited terror. Millennia of evolution had taught them to recognize the moment when they stopped being explorers and became prey. But as they watched Kira's absolute stillness, they realized something more disturbing. She wasn't afraid. She was hunting. The clearing stretched before them like a natural amphitheater, ringed by towering trees whose bioluminescent bark cast everything in an ethereal, blue-green glow. The Vareni team had been studying the unusual energy signatures emanating from the soil when Kira went completely still. "Human Thorne, please respond," Vixel said, his voice carrying the edge of panic that came naturally to a species descended from gazelles. "Our protocols require—" "Shut up," Kira said quietly, her voice cutting through the cum channel like a blade. "All of you, don't move. Don't breathe loud. Don't think loud." Medic Bryn's ears flattened against her skull. "Think. Loud? That's not scientifically. Bryn." Kira's voice was barely a whisper now. "Please." The jungle around them seemed to pulse with malevolent life. The bioluminescent plants continued their rhythmic light show, but something was wrong with the pattern. It was too synchronized, too ... deliberate. Like a heartbeat, Navigator Quinth's 4 eyes swiveled independently, scanning for threats his instruments couldn't detect. "The electromagnetic readings are spiking," he reported through subvocal communication. "But I see nothing." That's the problem, Kira breathed. She remained crouched, one hand still pressed to the mossy ground. Her head turned slowly, methodically, like a sensor array calibrating. The Vareni watched in fascination and terror as their human colleague. DEMONSTRATED hunting instincts they'd never evolved. The calls stopped, she said finally. When was the last time you heard one of those distant animal sounds? The team exchanged glances. They'd grown accustomed to the background chorus of Jovara 3's wildlife clicks, whistles, and haunting melodies that echoed through the canopy. But now that she mentioned it, 15 minutes, Zelix said, checking his chronometer. Maybe. 20. Apex predators cause silence, Kira said. Everything else goes quiet and hides. But our sensors, Vixel started. Your sensors are looking for heat signatures, electromagnetic fields, movement patterns. Kira interrupted. What if it's already here? What if it's been watching us? The question hung in the humid air like a death sentence. The Vareni huddled. Closer together, their prey instincts overwhelming their scientific training. But as they watched Kira, they realized she wasn't huddling. She was positioning herself between them and something they couldn't see. Bryn, Vixel said carefully. Begin recording. If something happens to us, the Union needs to know that Jovara 3 is not suitable for. Bryn wasn't there. The space where their medic had been standing was empty. No disruption of the moss, no sign of struggle, no trace that she'd ever existed. The recording equipment she'd been holding lay on the ground, still functioning. Where? Quenth began. Don't move, Kira said, her voice deadly calm. Don't look around. Don't try to find her. We're in the kill zone now. The Vareni felt their hearts stop. In the distance, barely audible, came the sound of something large, moving through the undergrowth, patient, methodical, hunting. The predator's patter, the remaining team members stood frozen as the reality of their situation sank in. Bryn had simply vanished, not killed, not dragged away, but erased from existence so completely that even the moss where she'd stood showed no disturbance. How? Zelix whispered, his breathing apparatus fogging with rapid, panicked breaths. Kira's eyes never stopped moving, tracking shadows and light patterns the others couldn't interpret. Perfect ambush predator, she said, her voice carrying the clinical. Detachment of a soldier, analyzing enemy tactics. It's been studying us, learning our patterns, our spacing, our blind spots. But our sensors, Vixel started again, are useless. Kira cut him off. It's using the jungle's own electromagnetic field to mask its signature. The bioluminescent plants aren't just pretty lights. They're creating a sensor dead zone. Everything you're seeing is what it wants you to see. The jungle around them seemed to shift and breathe. Patterns of light moved through the canopy in ways that suggested intelligence, not random biological processes. The Vareni crew's evolutionary instincts screamed warnings they'd never needed to heed on their peaceful homeworlds. What do we do? Quenth asked, his four eyes darting in different directions. We think like it thinks, Kira said. She began moving slowly, deliberately, each step calculated. It's patient. It's intelligent. It's been hunting pack animals for millennia. It knows we're social creatures who cluster together when threatened. So it picked off our weakest member first, Vixel said, understanding dawning in his large eyes. No, Kira said, her tone sharp. It didn't pick the weakest. It picked the most isolated. Bryn was standing 2 meters from the rest of us, focused on her equipment. Perfect target. The human continued her methodical movement, positioning herself where she could watch the most angles simultaneously. The Vareni noticed she wasn't trying to protect them. She was using them as bait. You're letting it hunt us, Zelix accused. I'm letting it think it's hunting us, Kira corrected. There's a difference. A sound echoed through the jungle, not quite animal, not quite mechanical. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a harmonic that made the Vareni's bones vibrate with primal fear. The bioluminescent plants responded, their pulsing synchronizing with the alien call. "It's communicating," Vixel whispered, "with the jungle itself." "Symbiotic relationship," Kira agreed. "The plants provide camouflage and sensor interference. It provides dot-dot fertilizer." The implications hit the Vareni like a physical blow. They weren't just being hunted, they were being farmed. This entire section of jungle was a killing ground, optimized over evolutionary time to trap and process prey. "How many of us will it take?" Quenth asked, his voice barely audible. "All of us," Kira said matter-of-factly. "Unless we break the pattern." She stopped moving and crouched again, pressing her ear to the ground. The others watched in horrified fascination as she demonstrated senses they'd never evolved, the ability to track through vibration, to read the jungle's secrets through touch and smell. "It's circling," she announced, 30 meters out. "Moving. Clockwise, patient, methodical." "How can you possibly know that?" Vixel demanded. Kira's smile was cold and terrible. "Because that's what I would do." The hunt revealed the jungle held its breath as Kira rose from her crouch, her entire body coiled like a spring. The Vareni watched in terrified fascination as their human colleague transformed before their eyes. Gone was the polite observer who'd accompanied their expedition. In her place stood something that made their prey instincts scream warnings. "It's going to take Zelix next," she said quietly, her voice carrying absolute certainty. "He's been unconsciously moving toward the perimeter. Easy target." "How can you know?" Zelix began, then stopped. Something massive had moved in the undergrowth directly behind him, close enough that he could feel the displacement of air. But when he turned, nothing was there. "Don't look," Kira commanded. "That's what it wants. The moment you focus on where you think it is, it's already somewhere else." The bioluminescent plants around them had begun pulsing in a new pattern, faster, more urgent. The jungle itself seemed to be coordinating the hunt, providing real-time information to its apex predator. "This is impossible," Vixel whispered. "No single organism could achieve this level of environmental integration." "You're thinking like scientists," Kira said. "Think like prey. What would scare you most?" The answer came to them simultaneously. A predator that could turn their entire environment against them. Not just a hunter, but a conductor orchestrating a symphony of death. "It's not just using the jungle," Quenth realized. "It is the jungle, or part of it. Collective organism," Kira agreed. "The plants, the electromagnetic field, the predator itself, all parts of one hunting system. Evolution's perfect killing machine." A new sound echoed through the clearing, a low, harmonic vibration that seemed to come from the very roots beneath their feet. The Vareni felt their knees buckle as the frequency hit their inner ears, designed by millions of years of evolution to trigger freeze responses in prey animals. But Kira didn't freeze. Instead, she did something that would have been impossible for any herbivorous species to conceive. She smiled. "Got you," she whispered. The jungle erupted. What had seemed like empty space suddenly filled with something massive and terrible. 6 limbs unfolded from what they'd thought was a cluster of bioluminescent vines. A head longer than their transport ship emerged from a stand of trees that had been camouflage. Eyes like burning coals fixed on the Vareni team with predatory intelligence. The creature was beautiful in its lethality, a perfect fusion of plant and animal, evolved specifically to hunt social prey in dense jungle environments. Its skin shifted and changed color to match the surrounding flora, while tendrils of living light connected it to the plant network around them. "Oh gods," Vixel breathed. "It's magnificent." "It's dead," Kira said simply. The creature's head swiveled. Toward her, recognizing something it had never encountered before. For the first time in its evolutionary history, it faced prey that wasn't running. Prey that was studying it with the same cold calculation it had shown them. "You made a mistake," Kira told it, her voice carrying clearly through the jungles. "Electromagnetic field. You let me see your pattern." The creature's harmonic call changed pitch, becoming something like confusion. It had never encountered prey that analyzed its hunting methods. The Vareni watched in amazement as their human colleague began to move, not fleeing, but advancing. "Earth doesn't breed survivors," she said, drawing her combat knife. "It breeds predators who outthink the hunt." The apex lesson the creature's first attack came with the speed of a striking snake, 6 limbs converging on the spot where Kira had been standing. But she was already moving, her human reflexes and pattern recognition allowing her to predict. The assault. She rolled between the creature's legs, her knife finding the soft joint where chitin met flesh. The jungle screamed. The bioluminescent plants flared to blinding intensity as the creature's pain signals flooded the network. The Vareni covered their eyes, but Kira had expected this. She'd been watching the patterns, learning the system's responses. While the creature thrashed in agony and confusion, she was already positioning for her next strike. Impossible, Vixel. Breathed. No single organism could defeat a collective predator of this complexity. "You're right," Kira said, dodging another massive limb. "But I'm not fighting the creature. I'm fighting the system." She pulled something from her belt, a small device the Vareni had assumed was a standard comm unit. Instead, it began emitting a specific electromagnetic frequency that made the jungle plant's light patterns stutter and fail. "Signal jammer," she explained, driving her knife into another joint. "I've been recording the network's frequency patterns since we arrived. Now I'm feeding them back in reverse." The creature's movements became erratic as its connection to the plant network degraded. For the first time in its evolutionary history, it was truly alone, cut off from the environmental intelligence that had made it an apex predator. "How did you know?" Quenth asked, his 4 eyes wide with amazement. "Earth has collective predators too," Kira said, severing a critical neural connection. "Army ants, wolf packs, human military units. The key is always communication. Disrupt the communication, and the collective becomes just another animal." The creature made one final desperate lunge, but Kira was ready. She used its own momentum against it, guiding its head into a cluster of sharp crystalline formations. The impact sent shockwaves through the jungle network, causing the bioluminescent plants to flicker, and die-dot silence fell over the clearing. Real silence this time, not the predatory quiet that had preceded the hunt. The jungle's apex predator lay still, its perfect camouflage fading to reveal mottled brown and green flesh. "It's over," Vixel whispered. "Not quite," Kira said. She activated her comm unit, sending a wide-spectrum signal. "Bryn, respond if you can hear this." A weak signal came back from deeper in the jungle. The medic was alive, trapped in some kind of digestive cocoon, but still breathing. The creature had been saving her for later consumption. As they worked to free their teammate, the Vareni crew looked at their human colleague with new understanding. They'd invited her as an observer, a curious example of a predator species. But she'd proven something far more significant. "Your species," Vixel said carefully, "they don't just survive hostile environments, they master them." "Every environment on Earth is hostile," Kira replied, cleaning her knife on the creature's hide. "We learn to be more dangerous than anything that hunts us." The jungle around them was already beginning to change. Without its apex predator, the symbiotic plant network was failing. Other sounds, genuine animal calls, began to fill the silence. Life was returning to normal patterns. "The Union needs to know about this," Quenth said. "About what humans are capable of." Kira shouldered her pack and checked her weapons. They already know. That's why they invited me along. Not to observe, to learn. Earth is full of predators, but humans are the only ones who learned how to think the hunt itself. As they prepared to leave the clearing, the Vareni crew finally understood the true lesson of Juvara 3. In a galaxy full of prey species, humanity represented something unprecedented. Predators who had evolved beyond instinct into pure, calculating intelligence. The jungle had taught them that in the vast darkness of space, Earth didn't breed survivors. It bred apex predators who made the galaxy itself their hunting ground. The end.